Hello everyone, in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this Macrame flower bracelet, and this is what mine looks like here with these materials. So I just chose to use kind of a neutral cord to make the bead stand out a bit more, so you get this kind of cute flower look going all the way down. And I've just chosen to alternate between the colours for each section there, or each flower. I've then alternated the colours of the beads. Obviously you can do whatever you want with that. You can make each one a different colour or make them all the same. That's completely up to you. And this is then what mine looks like on here. As you can see, it sits really nice on the wrist. So if you want to learn how to make this bracelet, then keep watching. So these are the materials here that I'm going to be using. First of all, we need our cord, and I'm using a 0.4mm s-lon in this nice dark grey colour to be a nice neutral kind of background for the beads to stand out more. And then these are the beads that I'm going to be using. Now I have two different sizes and just two colours in each of the sizes. You can choose colour wise what you want to. The large ones here are 6mm rounds, and like I said, I'm using a silver and a copper just to be able to alternate between them. And then here the smaller ones are 3mm rounds, and there I'm using the same colours as well, so I'm just going to be using them opposite from each other. And then down here I have my ribbon ends. So these are 20mm ones, are going to fit perfectly with the materials that I'm using. So I'm going to use them to finish off the ends and then attach my findings with. So I'm going to use my extender chain here, lost or claw clasp, and then jump rings. So let's get it all together and let's get started. And then we'll need some lengths of our cord. So what I have here is 7 lengths of about 2.5 meters each, and each of these cords here is going to get doubled over, so become 2 working lengths. And then I've just taken another short length of the same cord here, just so we can have something to start with. This is going to be the first holding cord. We need to attach all the other long lengths to that, and I've attached this onto my Project Macrame board and using these T-pins as well. It makes it nice and easy to work with. And then to take the long lengths of cord and attach them, I'm going to just take one at a time, and I want to put both ends together here of the same cord because we need to find roughly where the middle is. So bring it all the way up, and then I have my midpoint here. So I have a little loop, and I'm going to just keep hold of that. I then need to use this loop to use a lark's head knot to attach it with. So I'm going to lift up my holding cord on the board here and put the loop underneath from below, and then bring it back around the top, put my fingers through it, and then pull the 2 long tails through the loop all the way through there. So we end up with something a bit like this. And then I'm going to pull this tight, and this is then a lark's head knot. Then what I just want to do is add a bit more spacing to it. So you're going to find your cords from the knot is coming out to each their own side. Just stick to that. So the one that's furthest to the left here, going naturally that way, I'm going to take that one cord, bring it around the top of the holding cord on the board there, back underneath again, and then up through the loop on the bottom side. Make sure to go through that loop. So again, it loops around the holding cord, but through itself, so it creates that knot, and then tighten that onto the side of the initial knot. That's then a half hitch on the side of the lark's head knot, and again do the same thing with the other side, so the right one stays on the right side of the knot. Bring it back over and underneath, and then through the loop, and then tighten that. So we now have a lark's head knot here with a half hitch on each side, and that's what we want to do with all the cords. So I'm just going to push this to the side and then continue and attach all the other ones in the exact same way. So now I've got all my cords attached here, and it basically creates this row of knots. So this is going to be the very first row that we've made. And what I then want to do is make a few more rows of knots underneath here, just to get a little bit of work done before we then get into the proper pattern. So what I'm going to do is just start from my left side. You can start from the right one, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take the cord furthest towards the left and bring that over towards the right over all the other cords. And then we need to make a row here of double half hitches using each of the individual cords coming straight down, one at a time. So I'm going to grab the very first one that's coming underneath. That's the first one we run into from the left side there. And that's coming underneath then the holding cord that's coming straight over. So this is my first working cord, and I'm going to make a double half hitch by taking it around my finger over the top of the cord and then back underneath and through the loop. So it turns into a kind of a 6 like that, looping around the holding cord, making sure it goes over, back underneath, and then coming up through the loop there. And then tighten this up, and make sure when you tighten this that I'm holding my holding cord in a straight line outward, but then also push it upwards a little bit as I'm tightening the knot. and then another one here to make it a double half hitch. Tighten that down, because pushing that holding cord upwards a bit, make sure that this row becomes as tight to the previous one as possible. So that was one cord, then put that out to the side, get it out of the way. Then I'm going to grab the very next one that I run into, and then again make a double half hitch, so around over the top of the holding cord, back underneath, and then through the loop. So we get that 6, and then tighten that all the way over. So you then want to just keep doing this, making double half hitches with each cord here all the way till you reach the end. So I reached all the way to the end now, and I have my holding cord here coming straight out to the side from the row. Then I just want to make another one here. So all I'm going to do is take the holding cord back over the opposite direction over all the working cords again that are coming straight down, and this is going to be the holding cord for the next row as well. And all you want to do is the exact same thing, just starting a new one. We just kind of swapped hands. So then take the very first one from the right now, if this direction you're working in, and that's going to be your first working cord on this row. Take that over the top of the holding cord, back underneath and through the loop. And then as I'm going to tighten this knot here, make sure to hold the holding cord straight in a line out to the opposite side here, because this row is just going to go straight underneath the previous one. And again, push it up just a little bit, just to get that nice and tight underneath the previous one as well. And then you just want to keep going like this, so grab the very next cord. So we're basically just repeating the exact same thing as I did on the other one. We're now just working in the opposite direction. And of course you want to then move all the way to the end of this one as well. So once I then have my rows completed here, what we need to do is separate our cords into 2 groups. So that's what I have here. So that means we're going to have 7 cords on one side and 7 on the other. And it's just to kind of work on one side at a time, because I'm then going to start on one side, put the other ones out of the way so we don't get tangled up. And then I want to make some rows of knots, more rows here coming downwards now instead of going from side to side. And what we need to do is kind of work from the middle. So the very first cord from the middle, in my case I'm working on the left side, so the one furthest to the right from this left group, is going to just go out of the way. We're not going to be using that. Then I'm going to take the next 2 in. That's these ones here. And then we need to make a row coming downwards. So in this case we're just going to make 1 knot, and what I'm going to do is the inner one closest to the middle is the holding cord, and the outer one here is the working cord. And I'm going to take the working cord over the holding cord, back underneath it, and then up through the loop. So it looks like that. And then tighten that all the way up, and you can see I'm then holding the holding cord straight downwards here. And then we need to bring the working cord underneath the holding cord, back around, over and through the loop there. So kind of looping around, but just in the opposite direction. And then tighten that right underneath the previous one. And this is now a vertical lark's head knot. So this row is done, so we just wanted to make 1 knot on this one. Then the next 2 cords out are these ones here, right next to the ones I just used. We need to make a row here. Again, the inner one furthest towards the middle of the piece is the holding cord. The outer one is the working cord. It goes over, back around and through the loop. And then I tighten this all the way up. And then it comes under, back over the top and through. Just like that. And that's a knot on this one now. And here we then want to make 3 knots, so I'm going to do it again, go over, around and through, and tighten, and then under, around and through, and tighten. And that's now 2, so we want 3 on this row here. And then on the outer one I want to make 5 knots, so basically we're graduating from 1, and then we have 3, and then we have 5. And of course we need to do the exact same thing on the other side, so remember the first one in the middle here we leave out, so we're actually going to have 2 cords in the middle that we haven't made knots with in this case. And then you want to make 1 with the next 2, 3 with the next 2 after that, and then 5 with the last 2 outer ones. So we're going to end up with these rows on both sides. So this is then what it looks like when I've done all the rows here on both sides. We're kind of starting to get the shape that we want. So now what I want to do is do a little, you could say diamond or square in the middle here. And where I want to start doing that is from the 2 middle cords that we didn't use for the rows on the side there. So what I want to do is they're kind of each coming to their own side. So I'm going to take my right one and cross that over the left one. That's just how I like to do it. You can also do it the other way around, just make sure you stay consistent throughout. So my right one is going over and the left one is coming under. So that means the left one that's coming under is the working card and the right one that's over is the holding card. Then I take the working card around it, back over the top and then underneath and through the loop to get that half hitch knot. And then as I tighten this, I want to hold the holding card in the direction that I then want my rows to start going here to get this diamond shape. So I'm going to hold it outward here, basically to come underneath the bottom part where the rows end on the side. That's the line that we want to follow. So that's one, and then another one to make it a double, just like that. And then the working card here just goes out to the other side because we've used that for now. Then I'm going to move on to the next one. So that's the, in this case, holding card from the next pair of cards that we used. So that's the first row, we only have the one knot. The holding card from that is the next one that we run into. That's going to come underneath the holding card here that we're using and be the next working card. And then just make a double half hitch with that. And then continue your row by tightening that after the previous knot that you just made. And still holding the current holding card in this direction that we want the row to go. And then grab the working card from that single knot. And then make another knot the same way with that. So we're now building a row here on the side, working our way outward. And this is just the first side. Now grab the holding card from the next row here. You can see I'm just working my way outward, building this row at kind of a diagonal. I'm going to work away all the way out to the side until we used all of them on this side here. And the next card, make a double half hitch. And this is then also collecting all this individual rows of knots that we were just doing on the sides here. That's connecting them together then as well, and obviously then making it a whole piece. Next one, double half hitch, and then the very last one, bring that underneath. And then also do your double half hitch with that. So there we go. Then what we need to do is move back to the middle again. So I'm going to take all the cards that I've just used as the working cards and bring them back to the side that they were coming from, just to get them out of the way, except for the very first one. So that's the one that we first used as the working card out of the two right there in the middle. So put all the others out to the side, get them out of the way, and then we basically need to do the exact same thing with this one here, but on the other side. So this then is the new holding card, and you then just grab the very first one that you run into, coming underneath, and then start your next row. And just the exact same principle, this is going to come out to the opposite side here, also at this angle that's similar to the other side. So this is going to be the beginning of that diamond shape. So you just keep doing this, bringing the very next card underneath, all the way out to the side until you used up all the ones on this side as well. So then the next thing we want to do is start to fill in this diamond shape as I was going to keep making it. So what I'm going to do is I have the cards separated, so all the ones on one side, I'm just going to leave them out to that side in that kind of group, and then the same with the other ones. Then what we need to do is go back to the very middle of this. So I need to go back and find the two middle cards in this case, and that's one from each side. So right in there in the corner. So those are the ones we need to start with. And basically it's the same principle as the first ones we made up here. We've now just already got two rows. So this is where I then also need to cross them over and under. So again, I'm going to take my right one over the left one, because that's what I'm going to be doing throughout. And then the one that's coming over is the holding card. So we then take the working card that's underneath there and make a double half hitch to then start the next row. Tighten that, and this is going to then go right in that corner. And this row we then want to build coming out to this side, to the wall to the left here, that's the way I'm working. And it's going to go right underneath the first row that we made. And then we use that card. Now I want to move to the next one here, working my way outward. Grab the very next card that's coming underneath as the next working card. And then just build your row like this. One card at a time, always making sure you grab the very next one that you run into, and then make a double half hitch with that. What you're then also going to find here is we're going to continue doing this basically to build up the diamond shape, but each row that we're going to be making on the next level is going to be slightly shorter, because what I'm then going to do is I'm getting towards the end of this row here to use my last working cord. Then after using this one, making a double half hitch, the very last working cord is coming underneath it. We then have the holding cord from the previous row is the one coming straight out to the side here. We don't want to use that, so just leave that there, and then also put the current holding cord out to the side with it. Because we're then going to use one less cord for each row, they're going to become slightly shorter for each one, and also slightly quicker. So that's that row on that side. Go back to the middle and take the cord that we started out with, the very first one that's coming across all the others here on the right side, right in that corner, and then we just do the same thing. So grab the very first one, and then we start building our row in the exact same way on this side here, doing one cord at a time, and then working our way all the way out to the end of this row, again leaving out the previous holding cord. And you basically want to keep doing this, so making one row at a time, working from side to side. And then once you've then done both of these, go back to the middle and then keep building like this. And like I said, leave the holding cords out, because then you're going to end up with this diamond shape and end up right down here in the last corner. So once we then have the diamond in place here, what I just want to do is finish off these edges on the bottom where the cords are coming out from. So what I'm going to do is just do one side at a time. I'm going to take the outer one and bring it over all the others in towards the middle, and then you have the other ones coming out underneath. Those are the working cords. So all I'm going to do is take one working cord, the first one we run into, and then make a double half hitch again, and then I'm going to hold the holding cord so it goes right underneath where all the rows end, because I just want to kind of cage this in and give it a nice finish. So a double half hitch with this one, and then you take the next cord you run into, and these are all basically the holding cords from these rows that we left out along the way. And we're then building this row underneath all the way down to the corner here, and obviously you then just want to do the exact same thing on the other side. And this is then what the diamond looks like, and I have all my cords that I've been using then coming out towards the bottom here. I have 6 on each side kind of coming out to the side, and then I have 2 right here in the middle, right by that little corner, the very bottom corner. So now what we need to do is work on the sides here, and I'm going to work on one side at a time. I'm going to leave out these very 2 middle ones for now. I'm just going to start on my right side. Doesn't matter what side you start on, because we're going to be doing the same thing on both. And then what we need to do is start creating these little petals, you could say. So out of these 6 cords, what I'm going to do is go to the inner one, grab that, separate it out, and then I'm going to bring it over towards the right side, over all the others on the right side here. And this is the first holding cord. Then I'm going to make a row underneath the previous row there with one working cord at a time underneath, grabbing the very first one first of all, then make a double half hitch, then make sure when you tighten this you push up the holding cord against the other row to get it tight against it like that, and then grab the very next cord and make a double half hitch. And we're then building a row here, working our way outwards towards the very end, making sure that we use all of these working cords coming underneath, just taking one at a time, getting further to the edge here, because they need to get to the point where we can then also add in a bead to obviously add that extra embellishment. And then I'm getting to the very last one. So this one is then going to be a little bit different because we're continuing the row. I'm just going to start the exact same way, make a double half hitch, holding the holding cord in the same direction, just like that. Then we need to keep using the same working cord. So what I'm going to do is bring it back underneath the holding cord so it comes out in the opposite direction, and then we basically swapped hands. And then I'm going to make another double half hitch, and then when I'm tightening this, the knot is basically just facing in the opposite direction. So I'm going to still make sure to hold the holding cord outward and then just tighten this down against the previous knot. And one more to make it a double. And then just tighten that as well. And then we're also going to start slightly getting a curve in here. So that's one knot. I then need to bring the cord back underneath again. So the working cord goes underneath the holding cord, swapping hands again, make another double half hitch, tighten that right after the previous one, just like this. And you can start to see we're also getting a curve, bringing this around, then put it underneath again for another double half hitch. And we're kind of just extending the row here, but just using the single working cord, and obviously not connecting this end of it to anything. So that is then another knot. So what we've done is made 4 knots here, but going from side to side, alternating what direction we're making it in. And this is in that little curve that we need to kind of cage in the bead. So we just want to make sure that this extension of the row, we've made the right amount of knots. So there's 4, and also making sure that that working cord is coming outwards away from the piece. And then here we need to bring in the bead then. So I'm going to get my little 4mm, and then we need to grab the next cord. So that's the next one in from the previous side of the row there. The next one that we need to grab, working our way back in the opposite direction. I then want to add my bead onto that cord. So just get it right on the end here. And then let this drop all the way down, just like that. And then that's going to end up sitting right there and slotting into that little curve, and that's going to fit just perfectly. So I then take the holding cord that we also made that extension of the row with, bring it back in the opposite direction, still over all the other cords, and then this cord that I just added my bead onto is the first working cord coming in the opposite direction here. So make a double half hitch with that, and then I'm tightening this right after the previous knots there, and that's going to then still extend the row, but then working away in the opposite direction and make it kind of one continuous row, but just curving around that bead. Grab the very next cord, making a double half hitch, and as I'm then making this side of the row, what we need to do is when we're tightening the knots is we just need to hold the holding cord in the right direction again. So whenever I'm tightening this, make sure that it basically meets up with the very beginning of this same row. So we end up getting, you could call it a little teardrop shape. We're working our way back inwards towards the very beginning of it, like that. And then the very last cord, working cord here, make a double half hitch. So we're basically connecting the two ends of the same row together, just like that. And there you can then see we have a little teardrop shape. And then all we want to keep doing now is repeat this that I just showed you. So to make the next one, we're just going to continue straight from this. So the same holding cord that I used in that row, we're going to use again. Make sure all these cords coming straight down. So I take the same holding cord and just pick it out in the opposite direction here, so bring it back out to the right side, across on the top of all the others. And then we just start making the next row. So I take the very first working cord that's coming underneath and tighten that, and make sure again that these rows are right close underneath each other. And this is just the beginning of the same thing that I just showed you, just on the next little petal. So just keep going like this all the way to the end, and then when you reach the very last of the working cords here, all we then do is the exact same thing as at the end of the previous one. We kind of just extend the row and end up making this curve, adding the bead and come back down again, and that'll be a second one. And then what we'll need to do is do 3 of these on this side, and obviously on the other side we'll need to do the same thing. So once you've done them 3, bring them out to the side, then could you go to the other side and start there. It's all the same, but obviously just mirrored because it's on the opposite side. So you start with the very inner cord, not the 2 in the middle still, therefore once we've done the sides, and then the very inner ones of all the 6 on the side, bring that out towards the side there over the others. And then you just start the same things and making your 3 petals on that side as well. So now I've done both sides here, then we have all our cords coming downwards again. We have all the working cords from each side, and then there's the holding cord from each side. They're kind of wanting to go in towards the middle, but I'm just keeping them to the side that they're coming from. And then I have the 2 cords right here in the middle that we didn't use yet in connection with the sides. So what I want to do now is use them, because we need to add a bead into the middle. So I'm going to grab both of them, because both cords here will need to go through that middle bead, and then grabbing that one, so that's the 6mm round, and then just adding that onto both cords, letting that drop all the way down into the middle, and then that's going to fit just perfectly right in there and be the center point. And then we need to just kind of cage this bead in. So I'm going to take the 2 middle cords that's coming through the bead, cross them over again. I'm going to take my right one over the left one, the same thing as I've done the other times, and then do a double half hitch, and that's going to sit right below the bead then, and that cages it in, but also starts out and becomes ready for the next step that we're going to do. So what we really need to do now is obviously connect the pieces, because the center, the bead we just added, is separate from the sides now. So I'm just going to start with one at a time, and this knot that I just did is basically the very beginning of a diamond here. So we're just going to start from that again. I'm just going to show you how to do that. So start one side at a time, I take my further to the left one, over towards the left, and it goes over all the cords here on that side. I'm just going to take all the others out of my way. So I'm going to grab the first one that we run into, which in this case is the holding cord from that side section, and do a double half hitch with that, and that then continues on the other knot that we just did right below the bead, and this then continues the row that's going to be the beginning of the next diamond. So that was that, and then grab the very next cord after that and just continue all the way to the end, building up this row. So use all the cords on this side here. Then once you've done that, we also need to do it on the other side. So just put them out of the way again, and then take that original cord from them 2 in the middle that's coming out towards the right side, and just repeat the exact same thing. So grab the first one on that right side, which is the holding cord from the side section, all them petals, and then start that side as well. And then just make sure when you're making these rows that they go right underneath and close to the lower part of the very last petal. And then this is the beginning of the next diamond. And then once we've done both sides here, all we're going to do is continue making that diamond. So that means that we go back to the very 2 middle cords, one from each side right in the corner, and then that's where we'll cross over. In my case, I'm doing the right one over the left one. Just keep doing the one that you're doing, and then start your next row again. And then make a double half hitch with the working cord, the one that's coming underneath, and then you start in the row in the direction out towards the left side here. And this is then also where you then leave out the holding cords from the previous rows and keep working like that, so each row is going to get shorter and shorter until you then reach that very bottom corner, and then you just want to cage in the diamond just like up here, and then we just keep repeating this. So it's this section here basically we're now going to keep repeating until we reach the length that we want. So once I've then kept going here and reached all the way to the other end, what we then need to do is finish off this end the same way that we started out with the other one, but obviously just in reverse. So what we need to do is make our little rows from this finishing point where the cords are coming out from, going downwards. And what we need to do here, the 2 middle ones right in that corner we're not using, but then we're going to make our rows on each side. So just start with one side at a time. We then take the first 2 cords from the middle, just like this. And then the inner one is the holding cord and the outer one is the working cord. And this is where we just want to make a vertical lark's head knot. Just take them out of the way. So like that. So you go over first, back, under and through, and then tighten that, and then under, back over and through. And that's that one there. Then we take the next 2 cords, that's the next pair here, and then we do the same thing. Take it over, around and through, and tighten, and under, around and through. And that's a knot on that one. And this is then where on the second one we need to make 3 knots. So I've got 2 here, and then we need to do the final one over and under. So I've got one on the inner pair here, closer to the middle. I've got 3 on the next one, and then the outer one here is the one that gets 5. So they graduate nicely. Go to the other side, do the exact same thing. The inner pair gets the 1 knot. Separate the cords out here. So they get 1 knot. The middle pair out of these 3 on this side gets 3 knots, and then the outer pair gets 5 knots. And then the final thing we just need to do down here is then make the rows the other way. So basically collect all the ones that we just did. So I'm just going to start from one side. Take my furthest left one, in this case you could also take the right one, it doesn't matter. Put that over all the others to the opposite side. And then the first one coming underneath is then the holding cord from the same pair. Make a knot while holding the holding cord out to the side here in a straight line, and make your double half hitch. Move to the next one, which is the working cord from the next pair that we used to make the rows with, and then just keep working away across like this, always grabbing the very next cord all the way to the end. And then I'm going to make the same amount of rows here as I did in the other end, so I'm going to make 3 going back and forth. So here I then have my finished length. So what there's left to do is obviously get rid of the excess cord, but then also finish off the ends so we can attach our clasp. So because I'm using a synthetic cord here, what I'm going to do is cut these down and then singe the ends with a lighter. You can also use glue, so if you use glue, if it's a natural cord for instance, or you just prefer it, I would put the glue right where the cords are coming out from, so the last row of knots there, and then obviously let it dry a bit, and then cut off the excess. Now what I'm going to do, because I'm singeing them, I'm going to cut off the excess cord, but leaving about 1 millimeter or 2. So something like that. And then I'm going to get my lighter out. So obviously this is a naked flame, you want to be careful because it gets hot. And then I'm just going to singe down those little 1 or 2 millimeter ends of the cord, because then it gets rid of them and finishes it off nicely, but it also kind of seals the ends in place so it's not going to come undone. Just like that, and then I just like to kind of press them in. It just helps seal it. So there we go. Obviously do the same with that one and the other end as well. Want to get rid of that cord, and then just going to get rid of it here. We need to then use our ribbon ends to finish them off nicely. So that's these ones here. So they have a little bit of a kind of mouth shape, a crocodile mouth you could almost say, with teeth on the one side there. So I'm going to add glue to that and then clamp it onto there. So what I'm going to be doing is using the E6000 glue. I like to use that for this because it's nice and strong, but also it dries clear, so if anything comes spilling out you won't really be able to see it. So I'm just going to take a bit onto a toothpick, and then I'm going to get it into the ribbon end and coat the inside of it. So just nice. So we don't need to add too much glue because this is going to come spilling out anyway, because we're going to be clamping this down. So that's ready. So what I also just like to do is the excess glue here, I just put that right in the end, because then they'll adhere nicely together once you then clamp it down, and obviously the glue dries. So just get rid of the excess there. So now I have the ribbon end and the end of my piece ready, and then I'm going to put them together. So just take the ribbon end and put that on to the very end. You can see it fits just perfectly. Just get a little bit excess glue off there, get on the outside. And then I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and we need to clamp this down. So I like to hold my piece in my hand here and then put a finger on each side. And then I like to go in kind of from one end, but I don't go in and make a big clamp right from the beginning. I kind of like to clamp it down a little bit at a time, going from side to side until it gets really close to being all the way down, because then we still have a chance to move it right if it's gone a little bit out of position, because I want to make sure that it's kind of in the middle of each other so we don't have this sitting off to the side, because it can kind of slip while you're clamping it down. So once I'm happy with where it's sitting, I'm then going to go in and do my final squeeze here, and also just right on the end like that. Same thing on the other side. So there we go. And then if any glue is kind of come out, a little bit's come out right here in the loop. Just remove that. You can do that while it's still wet here, a bit easier, or you can also just do it when it's dried a bit. Obviously we need to make sure we're not clogging up this hole, so just get rid of that. Let the glue dry, obviously finish off the other end the same way, and then you just want to attach your findings using those loops, and then we have the finished bracelet. So here's then the bracelet after I finished off the ends and also attached my clasp, so my lotter claw clasper and extended chain, and then it's ready to wear. So I just use my clasp here, so it's then nice and secure when I wear it as well, and it looks a little something like that. So it gives a really nice and kind of sweet effect there, almost a little hint of it being flowers all the way. And then obviously I just alternate the colours there. You can really do what you want with the colours and the beads, so you can also make each one a completely different colour. That would be kind of a fun look as well. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know, and thank you very much for watching.